You haven't started the movie yet in the background. I don't even know what's going on. I don't even know who I am.
Why are we here? Okay, hold
You know
on, I
what?
got
That's a good question, Scott. Why are we here?
God? Well,
Hey, it's your guy Ren. Welcome to Cinema Slime, the podcast for film lovers who can't stop talking about the movies that move us, confuse us, or just make us want to yell at the screen. I'm joined, as always, by my brilliant co-hosts Harrison and Scott. As we're watching movies regardless, we need to talk about it. Let's go.
you need to start us off. How was Disneyland?
No, Disneyland was great. Kids had a great time. We didn't bring the stroller wagon, which is kind of a big deal for us because usually we like to bring that into Disneyland. So it's kind of a nice little safe space for the kids. They can kind of, regulate and have their own little area. But we were like, you know what? I don't think the kids need it. Last time we went, they literally never went in it. So I was just pushing around this giant wagon the whole time. And it was just like a walking shelf, basically. We just put crap in it. So yeah, no, we didn't bring that. Kids walked everywhere. Charlie, we're starting to learn Charlie knows what she wants and she gets what she wants because it's like 10:40. She's losing. She's just like, I am so freaking done with this. Like all this walking, all these people, just done with this. And as we're walking out, I'm like, here, let me grab some food. I just need something to settle my stomach. So I got some food and I was like, hey, maybe we should just sit down and eat this. And Charlie walks up to me, grabs my hand, and is like, no, we are going right now. And she just dragged me out of the store and was like, we're going back to the hotel. I'm tired. I was like, okay. Like,
Mhm. She's seen the walkthrough enough times. She's like, I don't need to see this in real life. I want to do what I want to do.
yeah, I don't need to experience this. I've seen it all. Let's just do the fun stuff. Let's get out of here. I don't know what. My kid had to drag me out of Disney.
So, what were your two favorite rides at Disneyland?
Man, so they just redid Splash Mountain into Tiana's Bayou. Everyone was whining, complaining about it. It gets rid of this theme that's so near and dear to my heart. And I'm like, bull crap. You've never seen Song of the South. You've never seen it, and you don't care about it. So whatever.
It hasn't aged well.
Yeah, it didn't age well. It's not good. So we went on it. I got off of that, and I was like, it was perfect. Great theme, awesome visuals. The drop is still incredible. Love that one. And then they have a Star Wars ride called Rise of the Resistance. And I'm telling you, if you are even a slight Star Wars nerd and you go on that, you'll be watching Star Wars movies for like 3 months straight because it's so good. You go on that ride, and after you get off, you're like, I don't care about anything other than Star Wars, and all I want to do is watch Star Wars movies because it's so good. It's a mind blowing experience. I'm not gonna lie. I think anybody, even if you're not a theme park person, like you could go on that ride and get off of it and be like, I can't deny that that was incredible.
I haven't been in like 20 years.
I love going. The kids love going. Nicole loves going. So that's kind of our pretty consistent vacation. Yeah,
I want to go to Nintendo World really bad.
it's fun actually. Yeah, we went to Universal Studios. They have well, we didn't go this time, but last time we went, and they got they got like Hogwarts Land right up there, which is really cool. And then Super Nintendo World is just down below. Rides are really fun, and it's kind of cool. Like when you go into Nintendo World, you go through a big green pipe, and as you walk in, you kind of forget where you're at and like what's around you. So you really like go into this other world. It's pretty impressive.
And it's like,
Yeah, no, like the Mario Kart ride's pretty fun, and yeah, they have some really cool like specialty food and things like that. Because yeah, when me and Nicole go to Disney or any other trip like that, one of our goals is we're like, okay, we're gonna like save up for an extra month just so we have enough money, and we're just gonna buy food the whole time and just pig out all we want.
that's like 80% of it. Just eating the food that's where you're going.
I remember the first time me and her went, I did the dad thing where I was like, okay, ham sandwiches, we're bringing our own water. What? I'm not buying, soda. I'm gonna bring my own cans in. So we're hauling this cooler everywhere. You open it up and you're just looking at it and you're like, this is so depressing. And I was like, okay, buy the $5 ham, or the really like it's more like the $8, the $9, $10 hamburger. I was like, just go for that. It just makes everything better, in my opinion. So
Nice. Well, I need to throw this out there just in case, because you're home. We haven't seen each other a few days. I don't want to hear any NBA Finals score updates until we're done recording. It's driving me nuts that I don't know what's going on right now. I think it's like the second quarter, maybe halftime, but the show must go on. But do not say anything about the Indiana Pacers winning the championship until they do it.
no worries. I'm more of an NHL guy, so my
Yeah.
season's over and done with. So
I was noticing your shirt, and this is a great segue into our shirts. We got some Cinema Slime merch on display. We're not a video podcast, but for those listening, that's coming around the corner eventually.
Yeah.
But we're testing them out right now.
And failed. I did. I actually know exactly where that shirt is.
Well,
I'll remember next time.
I gifted it to you with a stain on the front, so that was my bad. Yeah. Sorry.
Pretty much.
Little brown blob right in the middle. So
Hey, I'm your big brother. Take a piece of crap.
Yeah, here you go. I pissed on it too.
Eat my boogers.
Yeah,
It's
pretty
just a
much.
small booger. What movies did you watch on the airplane?
I actually slept for about all of it. And
Oh, man.
then I whipped out Final Fantasy 1 on my little Game Boy that I got a couple months ago. And I jammed on that. And we're so off topic, but one thing that's really interesting about playing old video games and playing, because I'm playing Final Fantasy 7 Remake right now as well. The biggest difference I see between old video games and new video games is old video games, they don't hold your hand at all. There's no anything. They're just like, yeah, middle of this world. Guess what? You can go in any freaking direction you want. What does that do? Who cares? Like, it's very just like, yeah, you just go and you'll figure it out. Good luck. And like new video games, they're like, okay, we're going to hold your hand through the whole process. There's some exploration and optional things you can do, but we'll make sure you know exactly which way to go.
And if you forget, just push start, look at the map, and you know exactly what to do.
No. Push start, call the Nintendo helpline, dig out the manual, hope that you have a copy of the manual, then look at the map that's printed physically.
That's a secret job I would love to have, is to be, I wish I was the Nintendo helpline back in the day. That'd be pretty cool, actually.
Pizza power!
4 teenage Kiss fans in 1978 are stoked to see their favorite band in Detroit. When one of their moms, Mrs. Bruce, aka Mrs. Noogie Burger, aka Noogie Boren, aka Lynn Shay, earns their Kiss concert tickets to light her cigarette in devastating fashion, but they hit the road anyway, determined to find a way into the show. They get into all sorts of crazy, wild trouble on their journey, but their love for Kiss keeps them going. Ultimately, it's a wild adventure about friendship, facing your fears, and chasing your rock and roll dreams. And I'll pass it off to you, Harrison. I just want to add that this was an addition based on our theme for the month, which was the VHS Village. But I included this because I remember seeing the cover and just being intrigued at the time. Because I remember when I first saw it, I didn't really get the Kiss thing at all. And I remember just thinking they were so weird. But our uncle Marvin, he was a huge Kiss fan. He had the metal hair to go with it. He was like the ultimate Kiss fan in my eyes. And I remember him turning me onto their music and kind of just let me listen to it. And I remember just being like, why? Why do they wear makeup? And just really not understanding. But then as time went on, going through high school and just high school culture and growing up and discovering music and stuff, the movie finally came around, and then I watched it. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later, but go ahead. I think you guys know that.
So it was our Uncle Marvin who introduced you to the devil's music. That's who it was. Okay, I'll remember that from now on.
What it stands for?
I know. This is real though. This fear of artists, because I remember being told not to listen to Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin. Marilyn Manson was really popular at this time. And yeah, basically, if you want your kid to not do something, just tell them not to do it.
I think we'll preface this real quick. Dad, we love you very much, but we're just going to bring up a couple things. I will say this. I got the same talk about Eminem. I remember listening to Mockingbird by Eminem, and he came and Dad came in and was like, all right, son, let's talk. And I was like, okay. So I just wrote down 2 sentences for my first thoughts for this movie after I turned it off. One, I can smell this movie. That's like that whole opening scene of them in their basement. I was like, I can smell this through my television screen right now. Like the marijuana, the beer, the sweat, all that gross stuff. And then the other one I wrote down, this is a movie that makes me feel like I wasted my childhood. And I feel like it's kind of on the same lane as like a movie kind of like Sandlot, where you watch it and you're just like, oh, this is what it's like to be a kid. This is amazing. And then halfway through, you're like, I didn't do any of that when I was growing up. Gosh, like just a wasted childhood. I did. I want to know. I really want to know when. So I feel like this episode's going to be like really just us interviewing Ren because I was watching this, just thinking of you the whole entire time, and like I really want to know, Ren, who showed you this movie? When did you watch it? Because it definitely wasn't in our house. I'll say that.
Yeah. So it came out in '99. I didn't see it till probably my senior year of high school, and it was the perfect time for me to watch this movie. And also the worst time to watch this movie because looking back on it, I haven't seen it since then. So 25 years and like, or 20 years. I had to do my math. And this movie made me try psilocybin mushroom pizza. Like this movie literally changed my life. I was like, oh my God, I remember there's a lot that goes into it. I had a wave of memories and like regrets and like little things along when I was watching this. I was like, I don't think I realized how much this movie like got me pumped to like party and go to concerts and road trip and rebel. And I'm not proud of like any of this, but like I'm just saying like this movie really influenced me looking back on it. It was pretty wild to watch it again. But, so Scott, you had never seen this, which doesn't surprise me.
Not
So like
one bit.
yeah, I'm rewatching this movie and I'm just thinking I'm like, I feel so bad. So I'm like there are better movies that could have been picked. And I think as we get along, like I didn't hate the movie, but anyways, go ahead. What was your experience?
All right, so it was the perfect opening scene for this movie. I cannot even describe to you how perfect that opening scene set up this movie.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I see what I'm watching. And the whole movie, I was like, Ren, this is the stupidest movie I think that I have ever watched. And then got to the end, and I was like, I get it. I get it. I know why. I know not only why did Ren pick it, but why the movie exists. I was actually expecting it to be just like a giant Kiss propaganda movie, and the Kiss was like the end goal, and it was like obviously like a Kiss movie. It's like oh yeah, Kiss, Kiss, but it was like representative of all metalheads from the late '70s. It was perfect.
Yeah.
I want to, before we get too far into this, I want to talk about the structure of the movie and why it works.
Please do.
And why it has depth at all, because it shouldn't, but it genuinely does. It's like, I think it's all the things you said, Harrison, are spot on. It's a coming of age movie. And if Sandlot is for being 10 years old, this is for being 16, 17, 18 years old. It's the sisterhood of the traveling pants for metalheads. That's what it is.
For the Kiss Army. The Kiss Army in particular. Yeah.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Like this is the most like drug, sex, and rock and roll movie I think I've ever watched. And it was like I'm telling you, like I'm not gonna watch it in a year, but in 5 years I won't be shocked if I watch it again. Just because it's like I actually watched this movie twice. I watched it once like earlier in the week, and then I watched it a second time to kind of just refresh myself. And it was just a really cool experience going through it twice. And there's just a little more depth to it than just okay, for example. So like that opening sequence, I think is one of the best opening sequences I've ever seen. Like just watching her come down the steps with that glass of probably wine or probably grape juice in her hand, and it's full to the brim. You're just like, okay, that's definitely gonna spill on her.
The Carpenters, all of her records. It was so good.
Okay, maybe it was subconscious because she was probably humming a Carpenter song, but literally as she's flipping through the albums, I'm like, she's gonna get a Carpenter's album out. I just know it. I just knew it. But this is going to sound a little weird, but that whole opening sequence. So going back to The Northman, which we watched, one thing I said about it was I felt like every single scene was very purposefully done, especially the camera work. And I feel like this movie had a lot of purposeful camera work in it as well. Like that sequence of the music turning on and she's freaking out and she is doing absolutely anything she can do to shut that music off. I feel like where they put the camera, the movement of it and everything felt so on purpose, and it made the scene so much better and so chaotic and so insane that I was just kind of flabbergasted by it. And then when you transition to them playing some songs in the basement, the camera's like zooming in on them. It's going in all these different angles and everything. And it's just really weird to, like I said, I compared it to the Northman. It was just really weird to look at the Northman camera work, and it's very on purpose, very still. Everything's
Yeah.
symmetrical, everything's lined up. And this is like, no, okay, I want you to do it just like this. Okay. Now go to the left. Okay, good. Now zoom in right into his mouth. Okay, now do this. I was flabbergasted by that opening sequence.
If the cinematography could be a horny, smelly teenager, that's what it was. I don't even mean that like as a like it's just literally factually that's what it was.
Absolutely. I love the part where the mom's kind of dragging Jam by the ear, gets in the car, and then the car speeds off, and then the camera pans over to the garbage can at the record, and then the needle, and then just boom, and then the arena lights, and you're like in a Kiss concert for the first beginning. But I wanted to point out too, they do kind of a montage of everything that's popular in 1978. So it shows like the Fonz, Happy Days, little clips, and everything that's popular on TV. And then the juxtaposition of Kiss. So you see the real divide of like the cool kids and like the disco kids and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, I don't remember that. And that's really, it totally sets the scene for the whole movie.
It's the usurper cult.
Yeah.
All right. So it's the late 70s goths. It's like goths because that's, the usurper cult from when we were in high school. Like they were not cool. They were counterculture. Now they're cool because they're old, but they weren't cool at the time. Kiss was not cool. It was for the losers that loved it.
Yep.
And so this is a cool movie for the counterculture, right? So the disco people, oh, faggy music, oh, that kind of stuff. Like they were obviously the faggy people, all that kind of stuff. Like they were obviously uncool, but it wasn't like they portrayed the main characters as like, no, we're actually cool. They were a bunch of losers, and this is the point, that were like, I don't give a crap.
Yep.
This is what we're doing. We're rebelling because everything around us sucks. We're just normal, and we're going to have a blast in this crappy world.
Yeah. I remember seeing that that lifestyle really appealed to me. And again, like kind of going back to like when you tell your kids what not to do, don't do that. Like find a different method because they're gonna rebel. And I'm very self-conscious of that with my kids. And for those listening, just take that word of advice because it doesn't work in your favor. There are more effective methods.
So I actually had a question in this moment. So watching them jam out to their music in the basement, them freaking out over the Kiss tickets, have you guys ever been that hyped to go to a concert, to go see someone, to go to a certain event? Have you ever been like that, just so into it before? Have you ever had that?
Recently, after we watched this movie, we drove up to Seattle with like 6 buddies in one car that fit 4 people, and we saw Daft Punk in 2007. And that was like our Kiss. Like that was my version of Detroit Rock City, but it was Seattle Rock City or whatever you want to call it. So yeah. But yeah, I literally remember thinking about that movie on our way up there, just singing along to all the music, eating pizza, just having a freaking blast. We didn't throw any pizza on any other people. Have you been? What's the best concert you've ever been to?
I've only been to one concert.
What was
it? A John Mayer concert.
Because I went with you to that concert.
It was really good.
I bet it was. He's incredible.
He's like I'd never like listened to John Mayer before. I'd heard his music before, but like it was my jam. At the time I was really into just like straight up Euro techno. Yeah. All right, I had no class. Still have no class, but it's fine. But I, for plot reasons, ended up having free tickets to go see a John Mayer concert. And I was like, this is incredible. Like the performance, the stage show, obviously the skill, and yeah. Extremely talented. Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, I would say John Mayer was one I was hyped for. Me and Nicole went to a Norah Jones concert that I was pretty excited about. My favorite concert I ever went to though was our younger brother Cam, and he messaged me. He was like, "Hey, I have an extra ticket to this concert. My buddy couldn't go. Do you want to come?" And he told me the day and the time, and I was like, "I can do that." And so I texted him. I said, "Hey, I'm down to go. don't tell me anything. I don't want to know the artist. I don't want to know what type of music. I don't want to know anything. Just let me come. And he's like, okay, cool. So he picked me up. We went and I sat there. I didn't know anything was going to happen. And it was an incredible experience. Just really listened to something for the very first time.
I can relate.
Oh, is that what, is that what you did? Did you go?
Yeah, I think it was probably like the year after I went to the same concert. So Dance with the Dead.
They're pretty dang good.
Yeah.
I know it wasn't a Dance with the Dead concert. I actually can't remember what the band was called, but it wasn't Dance with the Dead. No, it was like I want to say it was like
Oh, Bonobo.
Bonobo. Yes, that's what it was.
Yeah.
We went, yeah, it was Bonobo. Yeah, we went to that one, and yeah, and well, the other thing is like I was actually pretty happy because Cam and I don't know if he's always like this at concerts, but me, I'm the guy who's like, hey, like I want to sit down and listen to this music. Like all you people jumping up and down, like if you guys can keep it down a little bit, we'd really appreciate it. You know, like I feel like I'm in my 60s. Oh my gosh. Anyway.
We'll transition back to the movie, but I just want to shout out. I went to a Bob Dylan concert.
Oh, sick.
Worst
Mm.
show
Oh,
I've
really?
ever been to.
Oh,
And
that's rough.
the worst concert. And I love Bob Dylan, and it was great to see him, but he sounded like dog shit. It was crazy. He was like, and like he was playing like songs I love, and I couldn't even recognize him. He was probably not stoked to be there, but I'm still a fan. But be better live.
Just be better.
Good advice.
Just try. Yeah.
15 years later.
Bob, I know you're listening. Come on.
Pretty much. What was it? The next scene after that is when yeah, they're in school. They got they left the tickets back at the house. Then the mom shows up with the tickets and is like, yelling over the speaker. And a scene like that made me think like, oh, high school is going to be a lot more humiliating. Like it's going to be like this terrible, crazy experience. I never had that moment personally. No one ever yelled at me over the speakers and everyone laughed at me, but that doesn't shock me at all.
Yeah, I was like, that's humiliating. That's happened to me. There's one thing I want to point out when Jam is in his room and his mom kind of bursts in and he's trying to like not let her see the tickets in the jacket. There's a really cool part where the director kind of positions the cross behind him and he's like sneaking over to like hide the tickets, and then it points to her and she's got the light shining on her hair. And I was like, oh, that's so purposeful. And I think in my memory, this movie it's just a blah, whatever, like not a lot of thought put into it. But I was surprised to see that there are some cinematic elements in this movie. It was just nice. It was just nice to see. I didn't remember any of that.
That's good. No, dude, that moment she pulled out the Kmart box was harrowing. That's what it was.
Relate to that. Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about Save the Cat real quick. All right.
Yes.
So Save the Cat is a screenwriting formula. All right. So there's a book written by a screenwriter named Blake Snyder. This is going to be really quick, like overview of the concept, so we have some context talking about this. And he basically was just analyzing a whole bunch of movies, and he was like, all of these good movies follow a really similar structure. And so it's kind of like A Hero with 1,000 Faces, Joseph Campbell's, like hero's journey. Yeah. Ren's pointing to a Joseph Campbell book over here, The Power of Myth. So it's kind of like a modernized, streamlined screenwriting version of that. Okay. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Every type of media, book, movie, game, anything follows this structure. Some of them follow it so formulaically that it ruins the movie, and some of them follow it so well that it just makes the movie more powerful. And I think that this movie is powerful because it follows this arc really well. Okay. So I'm not going to go into like all the nuance of the different beats and stuff, but there are a couple of parts that really matter. Each movie is broken up into 3 acts, but the middle act, the second act, is the length of 2 acts. And I think of them as 4 acts. Okay. So the first act is the world you come from and all of its flaws, why it sucks. And it's the setup. Then act 2 is you've gone into a whole new world. And then act 3 is everything you've learned from act 2, you apply to that first original world to kick butt in world 3. You like grow through it all. And the beautiful thing about the Save the Cat structure is it's very character based. It's not plot focused. It's what changes in the person's heart, right? How do they grow throughout the book? And that's the thing that gives it the power. So this movie is incredible in this. So the opening, act 1 is everything back in their hometown. everything back at school. It's showing how much everything sucks, all the people, all the facades, the mom, all that kind of stuff.
The security guard,
all the stupid disco girls, all that kind of stuff. So the Stellas, everything sucks. And then they break into Act 2, and that's when they steal Lex's mom's car, and they drive to Michigan, right? They drive up to Detroit. And so everything through Act 2 is basically all the way up to, it's when they steal the mom's car, all the way back to when they meet up under the light and they beat the crap out of each other. All right. That's all of Act 2. And then everything after that is like, here's the resolution now that they've grown together. But that Act 2 is broken up into two parts. The first part is the promise of the premise. If you were to tell somebody what's this movie about, it's like, there's some guys, they're these, huge Kiss fans. Going back to your intro is perfect. They're in school, and they hate it. So then they drive to Detroit to listen to Kiss. You don't tell anybody anything after the midpoint of the movie, because then it gets really messy. Like the whole concept is they just escape their life, go on a road trip to go see Kiss. That's the whole first half of the movie. You don't talk about anything after that. The second half of that Act 2 is basically their whole growing period, right? And what's really cool about this movie is every single one of the characters is like, all right, we got here, each man for himself, and they split up and they grow in different ways, right? Every single character is challenged against their personal flaws and they grow through it. So like Hawk, his flaw is he's got stage fright. So he's got to do everything in front of people. He's got to sleep with the cougar, all the things. Everything is performance and getting out of his comfort zone. You got Trip. He's an absolute screw up. What does he do? He saves the freaking day. He wrestles back and forth. By the way, that's a slimy scene. Wrestling one hand with a shotgun, another one with a Stretch Armstrong. Like, that's going down in history. I'll never forget that image. Yes. But he saves the day, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, he's not a screw up for the first time in his life. And then you got Lex, and he's like kind of the like hesitant, like brainy kind of kid. And he's always like, I don't know. We shouldn't do that. But then he's like, you know what? I got the dogs. I'm going to go save the girl. I'm going to go, all this stuff. But like everything he did was like bold, sneaking, all that kind of stuff, really breaking out of his comfort zone. And then I can't remember the kid. Oh, Jam was like, clearly he was the biggest growth arc, right? And he's going from like sheltered religious family with the very hypocritical mom and religious cult and all that kind of stuff. And him just saying, F it all. This is all BS. I'm going to like do what is right. I'm going to be who I'm going to be.
Lose my virginity.
He goes and gets laid in a confession hall, and then he comes out the other side. And then when they all meet together under that light, it's that team coming back together, and every single one of them is changed. I love that none of them say anything. They're just like, nah, it was a bunch of bad luck. But every single one of them is a different human than they were before they left that night. It's like the 4th of July scene in The Sandlot where they go and they chew the tobacco and they barf all over the place. And they come back and they're watching the fireworks, playing the game. And you're like, they're different now. They've grown up,
That's a really good point. I love how they all had to kind of go through their coming of age journey all separately and alone. They had to kind of ditch their buddies and they had to go through it themselves.
They had to go into the woods, fight their own tiger, and come back.
They had to
fight their own cougar.
There you go. Dude, just so you know, as soon as they split up and they looked over at the bar, I was like, oh, this is not going to age well at all. I just know it. I was like mentally preparing myself. I'm like, I'm going to watch something and I'm going to feel real nasty after this. I was just like, you're talking about your slimy scene. I think mine's definitely going to be the barfing scene right before he, I'm serious. I was like, it was like a bad car wreck. You're just like staring at it happening. You're like, I can't look away, but oh my gosh, I'm dying right now.
That entire Hawk thing was in the script.
Yeah.
Like that is so PC today. Yeah. Or not PC today. None of that would fly.
I remember feeling kind of repulsed. Like, you're just, I don't like seeing people barf. But then when it keeps going, I cracked up. I was like, oh my God. I forgot. It like goes for like 10 seconds. It's so funny. He fills it up. He fills the whole picture up with barf.
I know. And then he hands it to the guy and is like, "Hey, if you could take that off the stage for me, I'd really appreciate it." No, I'm telling. I think the real gut punch for me was like, it's like, "Hey, you got to go in this bar and you have to strip." And by the way, you're a teenager. And I'm like, "Oh, great! I'm sure this is gonna age well and be great." And then as soon as he sits down, some cougar buys him a drink, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, we're going like all the way." Like this
Here we
isn't
go.
just like oh yeah, he's gonna dance for it. It's like, no, 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 stuff's gonna happen. I promise you.
Just some background. That actress is actually Sharon Tate, who is Gene Simmons' wife.
Oh no,
Which makes it even funnier.
no.
Then she
Oh
meets
my
premature Petey in the car. I thought that part was hilarious.
oh my gosh, that's wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's so good. Oh my
There were a few parts of the movie that I just wanted to shout out. You
Mhm.
mentioned, I think earlier in the film, what's the one who saves the day with the long hair? What's his name?
That's Trip.
A Trip. Earlier in the film, he kind of mentions he's like, "Man, I'm gonna drop out as soon as I like legally can. I'm just here serving my time because otherwise, blah blah blah." He talks about dropping out a few times. I love that in the end, he sees someone else kind of talking the same way, and it kind of like spurs him to make better choices in his own life.
Yeah.
And that eventually converts kind of into the way that he kind of wins and saves the day because he just kind of stands up for himself. He sees himself in someone else kind of talking the same way, and he just kind of like takes account of who he is and these things that he's been telling himself that maybe he doesn't really believe in. I thought that was cool. It just a little bit more depth than I remembered in the character.
Oh yeah. Well, no, yeah, I think that's great. Honestly, I feel like if I sat down and watched this movie a third time, I would find even more stuff. Like even just the premise of it, the way it's filmed, even the camera movements, you're just like, okay, this is kind of a loosey goosey movie. Sure, let's have some fun. But the more you look at it, the more you're like, there's some really cool intentional things happening here. And yeah, I mean, this movie really impressed me, honestly.
I love the scenes where they're showing like the split screens, and it kind of feels like you're in like a comic book.
Honestly, yeah, I think the best portion of the whole movie is the intro and then just what we were talking about, the scene where they all go their separate ways and kind of grow up and learn their own lesson for it. And Chance, oh my gosh. Yeah, the other scene. So yeah, you got the scene with Hawk, he's dancing and getting hit on by the cougar. The other one that made me just go like, "What am I watching?" is the confessional scene. He's talking to the priest, and the priest is like, "All right, are you sure you don't want to talk about the time you found some dirty magazines underneath your father's bedroom? Was that it?" And then,
He's agitated. It's not juicier. Yeah, that's my one of my
oh my
favorite
god,
things kind of peppered throughout the film is I wrote down a few of them, but just like I love really religious people who are contradicting themselves, like with their true actions. I love like the mom like criticizing people who smoke pot, but she's like chain smoking
He's got, like,
cigarettes,
like 100
button them out and just stressed out and
that scene where she's kissing the priest's hand and she's like, she's like going to town on his hand, and you're just like, "What the hell is this? Oh my gosh, what am I watching?"
I love when they show up with the pizza and he's like, "Oh yeah, don't worry," and he opens up the donations box. And he's like,
Yeah.
"Don't worry, I donated your tip to the donation box, or donated it to the church." I was like, "That's hilarious."
What does he say? He says like, "You know what? Thank the big man for me," or something like that.
Yeah. You're into comic books? Have you ever ran across a Kiss comic book?
I have seen a Kiss comic book. I've never read a Kiss comic book, but I have seen them before, and I'm sure they're wild. And actually, they're probably pretty PG now that I think about it, in terms of the time it came out.
There's something special about them. Every band member mixed some of their blood into the ink, and they pressed these like limited edition. Yeah, it's really cool. So if you ever see one, just get it. Unless it's
The most Kiss thing I can
know,
imagine.
I know, it's so awesome.
I love the number of times that the movie was just dumb on purpose. It was like no one ever it was like a 90s commercial, like sitting there in class, and it's like being called out in class, and it's like I was like, this is so dumb. Or like when they're running out away from Elvis to break out of school, and there's the nerd with like a
Mhm.
million
Yeah.
bits all over his face. He's like, "Hey, I'm responsible for that. I was like,
You were that guy, weren't you, Scott? Don't lie.
no, but almost.
Almost. No, no.
That hard.
In terms of the dumb scenes, the one for me is when they're hiding in the toilet, and just that scene of them poking their heads over and listening to the chick just totally, shit the toilet really loud. That just, I was watching. I was like, that is an image I don't think I'll ever forget. Is just the boys just staring over it, like, oh my gosh. Speaking of that security guard, I have an inkling that security guard is, I feel like it's almost like an inside joke or something with the director or the writers. Like I feel like that's not a character you just like dream up and you're like, oh, that'd be funny. Like in my head, I can see the writer being like, I remember that security guard when I was in high school. He was like, man, we all thought he was like a werewolf, at night, and he would like chase kids and stuff like that. Like it's such a unique and like off the wall character that I'm like, I can't think of anyone thinking of this just for fun. I feel like there's a story behind it. I'd love to ask the writer and be like, is there something behind this? Because I feel like there's something. Because it feels like a homeless Sabretooth from the X-Men comics.
I was thinking the exact same thing. I was going to ask Scott, like, is there like this like element of storytelling where you have like this villain that no one stands up to except for the main characters in the story? Like they're finally the only ones that have the balls to escape the school, the jail, or whatever.
Why do you think I'd know about that?
Because
You're
you
the
know
guy.
everything, Scott.
You're the guy to ask.
And just that scene where he's standing next to all the cheerleaders. He's like, oh, I see your trays match your outfits, eh? And you're just like, oh my
No, that's another dumb scene. I loved the dumbness of that because it was like just so stereotypically over the top. Where it's like you got the pedophile creeper hitting on the cheerleaders, and then he leaves, and they all go. I was like, this is such a dumb scene.
Jeez. So before we leave this high school scene, one thing I noticed on the rewatch is when they're first getting to school, like the group of cheerleaders, they're like walking into the school, and one of them has this brooch on her shirt. It just says "bitch" on it. It's like it's like all like glittered out, and it's like this big, and I'm just like, what is that? Like it's so good. It made me chuckle pretty hard.
There was a element of this movie that, I mean, we're all getting a little older. I hate to admit it, but like I haven't seen this since high school. So like just I'm being brought back to where I was when I first saw this movie. And I was reminded of just how brutal just high school culture is.
Yeah.
Like you don't show movies like this. Like even if you took all the sex, drugs, and rock and roll, anything out of it, just the culture of high school itself is like really intimidating when you're younger. This movie has a lot of homophobia in it, and I'll get to that in a second. But like when you hear those words, sometimes I'm like, like that's everyone talked like that like in 2006 when I graduated, everyone talked like that. So I kind of respect that in this film. Granted, it takes place in '78, but like it felt realistic. It's crass. It's so mean, and just like. But then the homophobic remarks and stuff, I actually, in hindsight, it's kind of funny because the people who love the disco music make fun of Kiss because they wear makeup and everything. But then the Kiss fans make fun of them because of the way they dance. And it's just funny. I found that interesting.
I actually had an experience in Disneyland, actually, like that, just relating to this. What was it? So we went to a Pride event. They had like hey, after hours, the park's closed down, smaller groups, things like that. And we walked out to go take a break, and I had a guy actually as I was walking out. He's like, "Oh, are you leaving before the freak show comes in?" And I didn't like register what he said, and I walked away, and I was like, "Whoa!" Like I haven't heard a homophobic, like comment like that in years. So it really like just like whoa, like really kind of threw me off. Anyways, this is the side thing. Another thing about the high school culture thing in this, I really liked how I don't know, I feel like they really kind of got the psyche of high schoolers. Like when she like burns those tickets, it's like someone dropped a bomb on an orphanage. Like it is just like the biggest thing that's ever happened to you, and it's gone, it's ruined. There's trauma for the rest of your life because of that happening. And I feel like when you go into high school, I feel like there's a lot of pressure and there's a lot of emphasis on like these are the greatest years of your life, and if you screw these up or if anything happens during this time, like, you know, it's gone, there's no hope for you, or like, you know, you're going to remember every second of high school, you know. And I mean, I don't know, like I personally had a pretty great time in high school. I don't know, maybe I'm just weird, but I don't know, I don't look back at it, I'm like, oh my gosh, that one event just like ruined my whole life, and like there was no hope of coming back, and there's that trauma, you know. I don't know, I feel like I never had that moment, but I feel like you have the psyche of when you go to high school, it's gonna be like that, you know?
And that's true, but it's also not the end of the world once
Yeah.
high school is over with. You know, they make fun of disco music. Disco makes fun of rock and roll. And I remember like when I really dove into like disco music, just kind of like doing it secretly. It's like I understand this isn't cool, but I just want to shout out and just make it known that disco is sick. Disco is underrated. I have a few. I was just going through. I have a playlist on my Apple Music that's literally called "Disco is Dope. I Don't Care." I just want to shout out. There's a few artists that people should look into. There's Sharon. He's a music prodigy. He has 3 insane albums that everyone should listen to called Sharon's Paradise, Supernature, and Golden Touch. But going through like discographies of disco artists, there should be no hatred towards that genre of music because it's awesome. Not to mention Giorgio Moroder, Chic,
Giovanni Giorgio.
yeah, Giorgio. First Choice, Kiki Guyan, Cool in the Gang has some freaking bangers. People's Choice, and like just to like, I despise when people only listen to their genre of music because variety is king and music is from God. So the hatred between different types of music, I just want to throw that out there, that perspective, because all music is awesome. When you're in high school, people are way too opinionated about that. This also leads into my first Kiss album, unbeknownst to me, till someone made fun of me, but they released a disco album called Dynasty. And in the movie, they were like, man, Kiss would never do that. And then like 5 years later, they came out with their own disco album. I thought that was pretty great. Yeah.
Well, that's really funny because I literally know almost nothing about Kiss. But as soon as they said that line, I was like, I could bet $1 million that they came out with the disco album. And I Googled it and I was like, yep, right there. Let's see. One thing I did want to talk about. So I would say there's definitely some weak things in this movie. I mean, there's dumb scenes, but they're fun. I think probably the weakest scene to me that kind of made me drop a little bit in there was the guy and the girl in the other car, and they cut in front of them and they beat them up and all that stuff. Like that whole kind of scene, I was just kind of like, okay, like what's happening here? And okay, all right.
Why is this happening? Is the question. Like, why is this in the movie? Was it really just to set up like rock versus disco? Like, was that the whole point? Like, what are your thoughts? Like, Ren, right? Like,
I'm looking up the actress. I just really disliked her character. I'm trying to look her up, but she's the main Stella that like they try to like hit on, and like that's really uncomfortable part of the movie.
Oh yeah, no, most definitely. I will say that actress, I think she's actually a pretty big TV actress right now. I can't remember her name.
She's on like a hit show right now. Yeah,
yeah.
You know, the only person in this movie that I recognized was Lex, and he's in Independence Day. He's rough.
Yes.
Yeah,
he's like, this is the wrong field.
Yeah, you're right.
Like,
okay, you ready for this, Ren? You ready for this, Ren? So the kid who plays Jam is the same kid from Jungle to Jungle. Yep. That absolutely blew my mind. I could not believe that. I just like, oh my gosh, because the whole time.
Yeah. Well, we can't forget Lynn Shay. You recognize her. That's Mrs. Noodle. Or Noodle.
Yeah, I don't know who that is.
Dumb and Dumber. The lead.
Serious?
She's the owner.
Oh my gosh.
She's the owner of all the dogs that I would just run a comb through them.
What was it? Edward Furlong, the guy who played Hawk, he's John Connor in Terminator 2, which is really, I feel like they look very different in that one, actually. Like maybe it's just the haircut or something.
I mean, his 90s haircut like really is very different in Terminator.
Yeah.
Now,
that was his first film, I think.
I don't think I don't know, Ren, did you ever watch Stranger Things or Scott, yes, did you watch it?
Exactly like the dude from Stranger Things.
Yes.
I was like, no wonder they picked him for Stranger Things.
No, that was the first. As soon as Hawk came on screen, I was like, "Oh my gosh!" Like they really based Jonathan off of this guy. Like
Yeah.
he looks so much like him. It really, I was really impressed with like right down to the jacket he was wearing. It looked very very similar. The haircut, the face shape, everything. That was the first connection I made. I was like, "That's a pretty cool little callback." Go the Duffer Brothers for that.
Have you guys seen? I highly doubt it, just based on what you guys have said. But have you guys seen Kingpin?
No.
Okay, Lin Shaye,
Kingpin.
mom. It's the same directors and writers who did Dumb and Dumber, but Kingpin. Anyways, Lin Shaye is in that, and she has an iconic role. I can tell you guys haven't seen it because you guys would know. For those who've seen it, you know what I'm talking about.
I mean, just to be straight, I literally thought like, what? Marvel hasn't put out a Kingpin movie, I don't think. A
No.
solo Kingpin movie. I was like, wait, what?
Bill Murray, Woody Harrelson bowling film that came out like the year after Dumb and Dumber. It's hilarious.
It sounds great.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be shocked one bit if you said, "Did you know that Bill Murray and Woody Harrelson have 3 movies where they're bowling?" Isn't that crazy? Like that doesn't shock me at all. Oh my gosh.
I have
Uh,
an edit to throw in there. I said Sharon Tate. That is a completely different woman. I meant Shannon Tweed is the name of Gene Simmons' wife.
oh,
Just
there
a
you go.
very important. Sharon Tate is the lady who was murdered by. She was murdered by. So yeah, important.
The Marilyn Monroe.
Right.
While
Oh
we're
my-
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Ren. What a-
Wrong name.
I mean, there's mixing up a name and then there's mixing it up with someone who got murdered. It's like, oh my gosh, that's so
Also,
good.
they have cancer. Oh.
Yeah, dang! Oh, we lost.
One of my favorite lines in the movie I wrote down was when he goes, "Hey, peanut turds." I love that one.
What was it? Mine is the mom. She's like, "And you're wearing those tight pants. I could see your penis." that one.
Yeah.
That one made me chuckle pretty heavily on that one.
Premature Peter. I thought that was pretty good. And then this is kind of going towards the end, but I have to talk about this. There was 2 parts that like just added so much to the ending scenes. I loved it. But there's the part where the Kiss fan, the little kid, he's at the pinball machine, and then his brother Chongo and all that. And then in the very end, he hits him back with the same words that the kid said to him, where he's like, "Tisk tisk, my Weasley friend," and he just has this like, "I got you," and he's got this. I just love that ending, how he ends up getting the Kiss tickets in the very end after all the struggle. I thought that was freaking.
I have to say that I think it was the like masterful screenwriting that Trip is the one that actually gets the tickets for everybody because he's such a doofus.
Yeah, he's the
And
one.
he's the one that because he grew and he saved the day and he's the one with the moral backbone. Eventually, he's the one that gets to flex his moral backbone at the end and get the tickets.
I will say, I think the most perfect moment in this whole movie is when they go to the radio station. They get told like, "Hey, we can't give you the tickets." And then when they go to the elevator, the Pina Colada song is playing while they're just sitting there depressed. I was like, that song choice is the most important thing you ever did in this whole movie. It was so good. I lost it.
I'm really impressed that this is not a silent scene. Like every other director, I feel like we talked in previous podcasts. There's like the safe thing you could have done that would have been right, and that would have been a silent scene. I mean, it would have been perfect.
Mhm.
Silent, awkward elevator, perfect. But Pina Coladas was better.
Yeah.
Somehow it transcended a silent scene.
This leads to the soundtrack too. Banger. Like
Absolutely.
every song is awesome. This part right here where he falls on his face when he's in the strip club, and then he pulls up in slow motion and Boogie Shoes drops. Dude, that part is freaking awesome. The Thin Lizzy song, "Boys Are Back in Town," when they break out of the school, I thought that was awesome.
Mhm.
And just the kiss throughout and everything.
What was it? The other scene that really made me lose it was at the very end. There's a camera perspective shot from Gene Simmons' mouth, like going outward.
That was cool.
I just,
wrote that down.
you know, like you're watching, and you're like, what did I just watch? And then that scene happens, and I was just like, oh my god, like that's what this is.
There's one more element. There are 2 more things I really want to talk about, just because we're kind of at the end of the film right now as far as the timeline. But
Mhm.
there's a part right after they all beat each other up and they walk up to
the arena to go to the concert, they've all got blood on their faces, and if you look, all their bloody faces resemble the Kiss makeup. So
No way.
one's kind of got a star kind of by the eye. One's got the little cat kind of face blood. Yeah, they all kind of match their own Kiss character, which I thought was really cool. Just
All right, all right, I'll watch it again. I got to watch that scene again. Honestly, them walking through the doors is super
yeah,
badass. Like I was like,
I remember the ending was better than I remembered because I don't remember it showing the concert. I thought they just go in and then it ends, kind of leaving you to
Yeah.
kind of put it all to yourself. But they do show it. The finishing touch on the movie for me was, or a little bit
The
earlier,
drumstick.
yes, his mom breaks the drumstick. He takes it anyways. He says he kind of leaves him, or he says his piece with her, and they separate. And then Peter Chris throws the drumstick. He catches it, dude. That was unnecessary and so made it so much better.
I shed like 3 tears.
Yeah, dude, I'm getting yeah. It's so
well,
good.
just the okay, you know, this is one thing I actually really like about doing this podcast is calling back to previous movies we watched. Just like in the Jungle Book, I feel like there was moments and scenes where it's like this should be corny. This should not be good. And I feel like that scene right there, him throwing the drumstick to him and him catching it, like if you write that down on a piece of paper, you know there's hundreds of people who be like, "Good God, do not film that. That is so cheesy. There's no way you can pull it off." And they did. They pulled it off perfectly. I thought it was a great way to end the movie.
I think there's something magical. So calling back to the Sandlot again, the Sandlot and this movie both do something with euphoria. Like you're tired. Like everyone's felt this. You've stayed up all night long. You worked a really long day, like a summer job or something like that. Everything sucks. You come out of it, and for whatever reason, it's like time slows down. You feel like you've changed. It imprints, it becomes a core memory, all those things. Like that's a part of growing up. That's a coming of age kind of experience. And each of us have had 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 of those in our lives, you know, at different stages. And you just kind of like there's no words for it. And I find it amazing that it can be captured. Like talk about real art,
Mhm.
right? Being able to capture the euphoria of transcending how difficult life is. And they did that with the concert, catching the thing. Sandlot does it, you know, with the 4th of July firework display, all that kind of stuff. And then it's like it is downhill after that, but it's fine.
Mhm.
You know, and that's life. And I think that's part of the beauty of a coming of age story is like it brings you to that acute hyper like intensity of being young and you remember it fondly even if it sucked, right? Like that made me who I was.
Mhm.
And so I don't care if it was good or bad. I am that. I am who I am because of that, because of that event. And I love that this movie captured that as stupid as it was.
By the way, I love that you're having this like really strong like sit down and talk to dad moment right now. And in the background, Hawk's doing his strip tease dance and pulling his pants down. And you're just, you know, you're just like these coming of age great moments. And he's like waving his dick in front of everybody. And you're just like,
That's this movie in a nutshell. And with that,
Well, I have one thing I want to add too, and I think for me, one of the things that really appealed to me, especially in high school, is like your friends. Your friends always matter, but when you're in high school, your friendships are everything. And like the power of friendship eventually got them to get through all the crap that they went through, self-inflicted or not, dodging
Mhm.
bullets, getting past security, all these things they had to dodge and get through. But in the end, you know, they split up, and then in the end, their friendship kind of brings them and it pushes them through to the very end to get that end goal
nah.
result. I thought that was cool. Anyways, that connected with me pretty hard.
Guys, is this secretly a really beautiful movie?
I think it is. I
I
think
think
it
it
kind of
is.
is.
It kind of is really. I'm gonna add one more thing and then we can do our ratings. I was looking through my notes. The only note I have that I didn't mention was that crotch hit when they're on the highway was I was watching like I'm watching and I'm just like this scene is a little dull and like, hey, what's the point of this? And then that crotch shot happens and you're just like, there you go. All right, that
Wait,
made it a
which
little
part?
more worth it.
the disco out
The-
in the road.
Oh yes, okay, yeah.
he like crotch hits him and he like you know jumps a foot in the air and it was just a really good moment. I guess it's more like I guess it is kind of a middle of the road 3, I would say, maybe something like that.
Mhm.
Probably a 3. I don't think it's gonna go too much higher, but it's a movie that I describe a lot of movies like this sometimes. I'm extremely happy and glad that I watched it. I don't know if I'll ever purposely watch it again, but we'll see. That's kind of where I landed on it.
Well, it's my film, so Scott, you go.
No, probably a 2, 3, somewhere in there. I hate it. But it has enough depth to bring it up, and I'm glad I watched it.
That's right. Okay, you said you hate the podcast. I love the podcast because you could take a movie that rubbed you the wrong, like The Northman. It challenges you. It's hard. It's disgusting in some parts. There's parts where just like things that just haven't aged well. But you kind of got to take it for what it is. It's depicting an era in time, whether they pull it off accurately or not. But I would say this movie is awesome, but it's a 3.5 out of 5 for me. But I know what you mean. And there's just so many interesting little points that you could take. Like I wrote in my notes, I was like, this is an extremely non-philosophical film. I wonder how we're gonna talk enough about this
For an
movie.
hour.
And honestly, like I thought you'd both be more negative about it. Just because if you're not like this is like a movie like you had to see it when it came out type of thing, I think. I think that's more of kind of on the side of where I fall. I'm glad I watched it when I watched it, but this is probably the last time I'll ever watch it.
I
I'm
get that.
retiring the film. I can't watch it again, but it was great to revisit some things and delightfully surprised at some of the choices that the director made. But this movie, I mean, I'll list 3 things that if this movie didn't have it, it would blow. 1 is the actress Lynn Shay, the mom, Mrs. Bruce. 2, the soundtrack. 3 is probably just my own nostalgia. So it rides on those two first things pretty hard. But I don't want to critique someone else's art, but there are just some parts of this movie that I wish were a little bit better in the end. But yeah.
I think it's going to be really interesting to I don't know if there's a milestone we want to set or something like that, but I think it's going to be really interesting to get to, let's say we get through 50 movies, and I think it's going to be really interesting to look back and see which ones actually kind of stuck with you. Cuz like honestly just right now, the few movies we've done, The Northman's actually the one that I'm still contemplating, that I'm still like, "Oh yeah, I remember that." Or
It's
like,
haunting.
"Huh. Yeah, it's haunting me." It's just interesting to you know, to see how long a movie's sticking with you, and it's shocking how long The Northman is stuck.
Movie.
It's
Yep.
oozing into your brain.
Nope.
with it.
Yeah, The
Each
Northman is.
passing day.
We'll do a little reward show. Which one stuck to your brain the longest? And so far, The
Okay.
Northman's winning that one.
Well, for next week, well, a little behind the scenes, we're not recording next week, but for when the show releases a week from today, we're going to be covering the film RoboCop, which is Scott's pick.
It's a dumb movie.
Okay, like hold on. Like, okay, let's say The Northman's really.
How dare
Let's say
you.
The Northman's like the least dumb movie, and Detroit Rock City is like the dumbest movie. Where do you think RoboCop lands in between those two?
I'm
Yeah,
not.
we'll talk about that next week.
There you go. Tune in next time.
Right, real
Pretty
quick
much.
though, have you watched it yet, Harry?
I haven't watched it yet. I'm planning to watch it tonight. The one comment I will say is anytime I see a clip of it, I'm always shocked how violent it is and how much blood
It is an
there is. Like,
incredibly violent movie.
yeah, that's the one thing. Cause like if you think about it, I'm like, wait a minute, didn't they make like RoboCop toys? Like, don't kids like have RoboCop figures and everything? And so in my head, I'm like, wait, hold on. They watched this and thought this would be great for kids. This is gonna be awesome.
Pretty sure like Burger King had RoboCop toys. I'll have to deep dive, but it was
As you will learn tonight, that's because RoboCop is the most badass thing you will ever watch. It's so good.
yeah.
When I say dumb, I was lying.
It's
Yeah.
incredible.
Oh, there we go. All right, guys.
All
Well,
right.
hey, had a great time talking. I'm gonna go get some dinner figured out, and yeah, I'll see you in a couple days. Actually, we're gonna record actually pretty soon. So
Oh, all right, brother. Talk to you soon.
Peace.
love you, man. Bye.
That's a wrap, and thanks for hanging out with us. Cinema Slime is a production hosted by Harrison Jensen, Ren Jensen, and Scott Shepard. This episode was mixed, edited, and produced by Harrison with design and art by Ren. There's more slime coming your way, so don't forget to subscribe, share, and drop a comment. You can find us on all your favorite social media platforms with links in the episode notes, and on Patreon, we will have exclusive content and merch. Until next time, go watch a movie.